Okay, so last time I made my sourdough cinnamon rolls, I had so many people comment on them, ask about the recipe, ask little parts here and there of how I do this or that. So I just decided the next time I make them, I'm gonna take a video. Today is the day I'm making them. I did not plan on this. In fact, my kitchen's a disaster. My hair's in a ponytail, which is very rare, but I just did not have time to style it. We're gonna just roll with this, okay? So first off, I get my starter out, which I just took it out of the refrigerator. This part might trip some of you up. This is how I do it. I'm not telling you how to do it. You do you, boo. But for me, I take my sourdough starter out of the refrigerator. I usually let it sit for about an hour to get room temperature, and then I use it hungry. It's really not hungry. I fed it yesterday and I feed a 1:4:4 ratio, give or take. That'll be a different video if it gets to that point. Slightly more flour, but just about a 1:4:4 ratio. And then I let it sit on the counter for like half an hour, maybe an hour, just to kind of start digesting, and then I put it in the refrigerator. I usually use it every 2 or 3 days. That's perfect. If I go 4 or 5 days, it starts to get a little bit acidic. It's not terrible, I can still use it, but at that point often I'll take it out and just feed it even if I'm not going to use it. That's the only time I have discard. Otherwise, I'm using what I make and I'm feeding it and I'm putting it in the fridge, and the next time I use it, I'm using what I made and have enough left to feed it and put it in the fridge. So I pretty much never have discard, except for if I go longer than like 5 days and I'm not gonna bake, then I have to feed it, and I don't need twice or 3 times this, 4 times this starter. That's when I discard. So that's the startup. We can go into that another video someday if I keep making these and this makes any sense to you. So I just took this out. I'm gonna set it on the counter. It's about 2 o'clock, I think. I'm gonna go run a quick errand, let it sit here for the next hour just to kind of warm up to room temperature. And then it should be good and strong and ready to use, and we will start on the cinnamon roll process. Okay, so I'm back. It's about 3 o'clock. Took me about an hour to run the errands. As you can see, my starter is actually still growing. So that shows you when it was in the fridge and it comes out, I don't need to still feed it. It's still feeding off of what was fed yesterday. So it's still growing in a sense. It's not even fully peaked yet. It's almost peaked. It's just about. Anyway, for me, this is what works. So this is my starter. We're gonna do 355 grams of starter. This is the only thing I did not pre-measure out yet, just because I kind of wanted to show you on camera what mine looks like. So we're gonna go pull on here. Zero that out. By the way, buy yourself a scale. I didn't do sourdough for so long just because I was like, just tell me how to measure it in cups. Just tell me how to measure it like normal baking, But sourdough is its own thing, and you need a scale. You need to be able to see what grams are there. So this is my starter. This is how it looks. It's nice and healthy and thick and strong. And we're gonna do 335. Should be a little bit more than that. We're gonna do 335 grams. That's a little bit past that. Honestly, I'd just leave it. It's not a big deal. I'm at like 345, 350, except that I want enough starter left to be able to feed to make my starter for, in the future to go in the fridge. So I need a little bit left still. So that's about 335. We're gonna keep this, and I'm gonna make my starter feed and put it all in here. I actually switch containers because if you use the same one over and over, there's a chance for mold. So I actually, every time I feed it, I just have a second one of these that I, put on the scale. I scoop this out. I get to the 45 grams I need to feed it, and then I go from there. So it's always clean. Anyway, that's a different project. We'll put that aside, and I will do that as soon as I'm done here with you. So 335 of starter, and then we're gonna go 230 grams of water. Now I'm gonna take this off the scale now just because I measured all of this out already, and it's not good to mix on your scale. It can screw up how it balances and weighs stuff. So I turned off my scale now. I'm gonna move that out of the way. So we're gonna take the starter in there. We're gonna add the water. And again, that's 230 grams of water. And then after you get the starter and water together, I always end up mixing it up together just to kind of get a milky consistency going so that it's kind of pre-mixed, because otherwise you get globs of the starter and then watered down sections where it's more just water and it doesn't evenly distribute as you're mixing in the other ingredients. I usually mix it up like this for about 2 minutes, give or take, just to kind of get it you're not gonna be able to see probably, but kind of get it like a thick, creamy, milky, brown consistency, just so it kind of mixes in with everything else better. Then after that, we're gonna add 2 eggs. I've got here a duck egg and a green chicken egg because I have my own ducks and chickens, and that's what I'm gonna use. But it should be right around 105 grams total. Not each, but total together about 105 grams. Doesn't have to be exact, just use 2. But I am OCD about egg juice. So I'm gonna go wash my hands. I literally wash my hands probably like 40 times when I bake, just because I'm a little bit paranoid about certain things. Probably more than I need to, but better more than less, right? Okay, back in the frame. So 2 eggs, we're gonna mix those in. And then after the 2 eggs, we're gonna add 100 grams of milk. I use 2% regular cow's milk. I think mine's the organic kind, but it really doesn't matter. 2% cow's milk. If you wanna try to substitute something else, you go for it. I can make no guarantees that that will work because I have never done a substitute, but it might be just fine. If you do it often, you'd know better than me. So 100 grams milk. And then we're gonna keep mixing that in. And then 35 grams melted, somewhat cooled butter. It doesn't have to be cold, but you just don't want it to be so warm that it like cooks or coddles the milk. Because it's by weight, if you do grams, you can measure the butter before or after you melt it, however you want to do it. As long as it's 35 grams, it should be the same. It will turn from a solid to a liquid, but it will still be 35 grams, whether you measure before or after. And it's unsalted butter. So we're gonna add that in. Keep mixing. And then the next thing we're gonna do after we get this kind of more or less fully combined with all the liquids kind of evenly distributed, then we are going to add the flour, which is 650 grams unbleached flour. That is very important, unbleached. Most sourdough people already know that, but if you don't, just like the water has to be filtered. It cannot be like tap water. There's just reasons. You can look into it, you can do the science behind it. I'm not gonna spend time on that right now, but filter water, make sure, I use my Colgan jugs, and then with the flour, unbleached flour. You can use all-purpose, that's what I'm using today. I do prefer bread flour for soft, baked goods usually, but I had all-purpose today and it's totally fine, and I've used it before and it's great. So it's really not that big of a difference. You may not even tell the difference, but if you are going to the store anyway, I would get unbleached bread flour. If you have all-purpose flour already, as long as it's unbleached, you are good. So, I'm gonna tap that out a little bit. Tap it. Okay, then we're gonna move on to, and at this point I don't keep mixing, like you wanna wait to add all the dry stuff before you mix it. Otherwise it gets real hard to incorporate everything. So I'm gonna let the flour sit on top of this, and I'm gonna add 70 grams granulated white sugar. And 17. 17 grams, big difference there. 17 grams of table salt. I use Kirkland brand, Costco, the big huge thing of it, because I buy everything in economy size because I have teenagers who eat me out of house and home, and it's cheaper to buy it in bulk. And then that is all the ingredients for the dough. So now we're just gonna mix it up. A lot of sourdough recipes will tell you just to mix until shaggy and that's it. I don't. I prefer to mix a little bit more than that. Some people say it's over mixing. It works for me. So you do you, again. But I'm gonna mix and mix and mix, and I'm gonna not just do a shaggy dough. I'm gonna do, I'll try to show you. I'll take a picture and insert it at the end of this little segment here. But I really wish I had a secondary camera. I could, use above and below and get all these angles. But yeah, so shaggy dough is usually what's recommended. I prefer it to be fully incorporated, fully combined before I stop mixing it. But after I do this, I'll insert a picture of it. Okay, so here's what the dough should look like after you do the initial mixing of all of the ingredients. See how there's no chunks, there's no dry spots. Yes, there's some flour and dry spots around the outside of the bowl. You can scrape that down if you want to. But as long as the dough itself is fully incorporated, fully mixed, fully moist, yes, I said moist, then you're good to go. So this is how it should look. You're gonna cover it with saran wrap now, and then you're gonna place a dishcloth over the saran wrap and set it somewhere somewhat warm, just to stay, you know, not cold for sure. It doesn't have to be hot. You don't want it to be in the oven or anything, but just set it aside and you will come back to it in about 40 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 40 minutes. Take the towel off the top, plastic wrap on the top. This is what mine looks like right now. I'm gonna take all this off and I just set it aside because we're gonna come back and use it again. And then I get my hands washed the first time, obviously, keep washing. And keep them wet, make sure there's no soap on them, but keep them wet. And you're gonna come back in and do some stretch and folds, coil and folds, depending on what you prefer. I'll show you what I do. You want your hands wet, like dripping wet. And you're gonna go in and I kind of just go around the sides, the perimeter, especially this first time because it hasn't gotten a lot of gluten yet. So the structure's not there. And I kind of just run my hand between the bowl and the dough to kind of scrape it away from the bowl. Again, this first time, just because there's not a lot of gluten made. And as your hands might start feeling it stick, just get them wet again. I'll leave that on actually so I can get to it quicker. And then I just keep doing that with moisture on my hands with water until I can get all the way underneath, even into the middle of it. All the way underneath, get them wet again if you need. And then this first go around, I'm gonna do stretch and folds. I tended to do coil and folds more often now, but stretch and folds, you pull and you slap it to the other side, centered almost in the middle, more toward the other side. And then I rotate it, and I kind of just think, you know, north, east, south, and west, or north, west, south, and east, depending. And I just go in that circular motion for this. Right now, we're just gonna stretch it and fold it, stretch it and fold it. And I usually do about 8, give or take, depends on how it feels. If it's getting strong like that, lots of gluten in it, you don't wanna overdo it. And then I kind of just flop it on the last seam and kind of pull the sides down. You wanna create tension on the top is really what you're trying to do. So I kind of just round it out and get all the seams on the bottom so there's no cracks or space for it to get dried out from. And that's it for the first stretch and fold. Wash my hands off. Like I said, I'll overwash my hands, but I'm kind of paranoid about it. And then we put the top back on, the plastic wrap with it. And then the towel over that, and then we're gonna set it back in the warm place that we had it, and we'll wait another 40 minutes or so. It doesn't have to be exact, sometimes 30 minutes will do, sometimes I wait more like 45, 50 minutes. Okay, so now we are gonna get our hands wet. I'm gonna wash them again. Get all the soap off of them, keep them wet. That running, anyone sopping, dripping wet. Scrape around the sides a little bit, and this time I think I'm going to do stretch and folds. So the difference is I just kind of pick up from the middle and let the front come apart from the bowl and then slap it down. And then I fully rotate 180 degrees and do the opposite side. So this is what I meant about north and south. Pull it away from the bowl, slap it down. And now I'm going to do the east and west. Pull it up and slap it down. My hands are getting kind of sticky, so I'm going to get wet again. Turn it around. So now I've done all that. I'm going to do the corners now. So I'm going kind of what was the equivalent of northwest, southwest, southeast, and northeast. And then after that, I kind of just use, again, like my hands, get them wet again if I need to. And I just kind of tuck all of the ends around and kind of get the top to have some surface tension, like I said last time. You just want a little bit of surface tension that's going to create that gluten. And at this point, second stretch and folds, I'm starting to get some bubbles already, some air bubbles, which is a good thing. You don't want it to ever rip. You never want it to like full on stretch to the point that it rips. But you want to get that surface tension and you want there to be bubbles. And then once that's done, I'm going to tuck all the ends here. This bowl here. And nice bubbles forming at the top. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'll do a third set of stretch and folds, coil folds, whatever you wanna do. I do coil at this point. This was my second set, so I'm gonna wait another 40 minutes or so, do one more set. We'll see where we're at. We are doing the third stretch and fold or coil and fold. I think I said stretch and fold last time and I meant coil and fold. I don't know. Anyway, either way is fine, whatever you choose. I'm doing coil and folds this time. The first time I did stretch folds, second time coil folds. This time I'm gonna do coil folds again. It's looking and smelling divine. And lots of bubbles, always good. You really shouldn't have to pull it away from the bowl so much anymore once you get your hands underneath it. You don't need to like go around like you were doing before. It pretty much separates itself now. If you just gently grab from the middle and pull up, it all comes off, and then you do the coil and fold. So that was north and south. This is east and west. Starting to get where it's more like tacky and it's not sticking so much to my hand, even if they're not super wet. You still want them to be wet, but not, it's not as sticky anymore. So I think we're gonna end up doing just 4 today. So this is the third. I'm gonna finish this up and then I'll come back and do our last stretch and fold or coil and fold in about 40 minutes. And then after that, we will move on to the next phase of things. So, okay, it is the final stretch and fold, coil and fold. This is the 4th one for me. Sometimes I need to do a couple more, but not today. This is looking good. So we're just gonna do this one last time, and then we will let it rest for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and then we will be rolling it out and actually shaping and making the cinnamon rolls. So this is where it starts getting fun. It comes together. And that is looking just about perfect. Right there. Yay. All right, so yeah, 40 more minutes and we will be back to make them. Woo. Okay, you've made it this far. This is the fun part. So we are going to dump our dough onto this foil here. I've prepared all of this. What I do is I get a paper towel and I scoop some of the shortening and I wipe it all over the foil here. Some people don't need to do this step, that's fine. I just prefer this. I have this wood countertop and it absorbs the shortening and it's just a pain to clean. So that's why I use the foil. And then I like to have the shortening, it gets all over the outside of the cinnamon rolls so that then when you stick them into the baking dishes, the sides all have Crisco on them so they don't stick together. So, I mean, they will a little bit, but it gives a good flavor first off, always a good thing. And then it also helps them separate easier when you go to take them apart once they're cooked. So it's just my personal preference. If you have another way you want to do it, you go for it. But yeah, I like to have the foil down to keep it clean, and then I have the Crisco on there, shortening, whatever brand, just to keep the dough from sticking to the foil, and then also it gives them a layer of that shortening so that when you bake it, it's good. I also prepped the baking dishes. I use cheesecake pans, so I only have one bigger one. This is my 9-inch. So I put Crisco all on the inside and the sides of that. And then I have 2 smaller ones. If I had 2 big ones, I would just use 2 big ones, but I don't. So, and then you're gonna also put those, I'll show you later, but you'll have them on foil-lined baking sheets. And that's a crucial step. So you definitely need to put foil-lined baking sheets underneath your cheesecake pans. And I use cheesecake pans just because then you can remove the side and the spring form comes off. And then you can get to the actual cinnamon rolls easier without trying to like scoop and do them. So it's my preference. Anyway, we're gonna dump this out, and it should fairly easily dump out. Yeah, it's coming along. You shouldn't have to like pull it or anything. Here we go. And then we are gonna just stretch this out. Actually, I don't use a rolling pin. It's kind of a pain with the foil, but it's worth it. I don't use a rolling pin. You probably could. I do with other dough and other cinnamon roll recipes, but with the sourdough one, I don't. it works. And it doesn't have to be, I kind of like when it's like, you know, some is thicker, some is thinner. It has kind of nooks and crannies for the sugar to get into, and the brown sugar and butter. So I just stretch it. I'll probably fast forward this part because it takes me a little bit of time. And you don't want to play with the dough too much because you can actually rip it, stretch it, or make it get a little too tough at this point. So I try to be gentle, but I just kind of keep pulling out the edges and the corners to try to make a rectangle of some sort. So, and then I use my fingers and push down the bigger parts to spread it. So I'll fast forward now while I do this. All right, so now that it's fairly well shaped, I melted a stick of salted butter. So in the dough was unsalted. This is salted butter. 1 stick, and I melted it, and we're just gonna put it on here and use our hands and spread it around. Again, this is why you always wash your hands 1,000 times so that you can use them. I also don't wear nail polish anymore or fake nails, mainly for guitar playing, but also when I cook like this all the time, it kind of grosses me out if your nail polish flakes off, and you know, if you're not wearing gloves, and I'm not wearing gloves in my own kitchen, no thank you. So smear this butter around all the edges. And once it's pretty much covering it everywhere, ooh, feels good, I like this. Once that's all smeared out in there, I'm gonna wash my hands off because I got buttery grossness. So 1 second. Okay, so get rid of that. Now we're gonna go in with cinnamon. I never measure this. This is 100% by your heart. I know some people hate it when you say that in recipes, but it really is to taste and preference. It's not gonna bake it any different. It's just gonna have a lot of flavor or not a lot of flavor of cinnamon. I like a lot. I mean, I'm not gonna put like a 1/2 inch everywhere, but I'm gonna put a decent amount on here. And I always do the cinnamon first, since this is kind of more by eyeballing it. That way you can really tell how much you're putting. And it absorbs into that butter. Oh, it smells so good when the butter and the cinnamon hit each other. Oh yeah. I'm kind of bummed because I was making these for my kids for breakfast in the morning. And I didn't know that they ended up at the last minute apparently spending the night at their daddy's. So I guess I'm gonna have a bunch of extra cinnamon rolls tomorrow now. My daughter will be here. She can have some. But I did not know that the kids would not be here in the morning. So usually they are, like Monday through Friday especially. So, oh well, that's all right. I'll share it with some of my adult friends. So that's about what I'm gonna do with the cinnamon. I might hit it a little bit more after this, but that's the main thing there. We're gonna do about a 1/2 cup, and I might do a little bit less. We're gonna see how it looks, because again, I eyeball it normally, but I wanted to measure for you. About a 1/2 cup of granulated white sugar. We'll see if I end up using all of it. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna use all this. So I would say about half that amount we're gonna do, because we still have brown sugar to do as well. So yeah, about 1/4 a cup would probably be better for if you're following it strictly and not eyeballing it. And then this is loose. You don't pack this brown sugar like you do when you're baking cookies or whatever. So this is just a loose measurement. And again, I kind of do it with my heart. But this is a 1/2 cup, and we probably will use all this because you want more brown sugar for sure. And I'm gonna use my hands again so I can sprinkle it better and evenly distribute. Yeah, we'll definitely use the full 1/2 cup of brown sugar. I mean, you could even put more, but I'd say 1/4 cup of the white is good, 1/2 cup of the brown is good. That looks about how I normally do it. a little bit more brown. Just to make it even. And then I think I'm gonna hit it again, because again, I measure with my heart, with the cinnamon, just to kind of give it one more hit all over. And she's a beaut. So that's that. And then we get to roll this sucker up. So which way do I want to? I think I'm gonna roll toward myself. It makes it easier. And since there was the shortening, it lifts off the foil a lot easier too. And then I just start, I go like an inch at first just to kind of get it going. And then you just roll it over itself. And it might start backtracking, so you kind of gotta hold it with one hand in place while you roll with the other and keep going quickly or it will unravel. And it gets messy, it is what it is, that's okay. So I will say with cinnamon rolls, I usually, with normal cinnamon rolls, I use dental floss to cut it. It's the cleanest cut I've ever been able to make. Knives always mush it down. So I've always used dental floss, the unwaxed kind, so you don't get any accidental like wax flavor, cinnamon, whatever, you know, unflavored, unwaxed. It works wonders. But I did last time, I was all out of that floss and I just used my bench scraper and I just cut it. And these are such messy, sloppy things, but honestly, I don't think it makes a difference with this because these ones are just, the dough is naturally a little bit softer and more stretchy, and it's just gonna be a hot mess no matter what. So I don't think with these it matters quite as much if you cut them pretty or if they get mushed or whatever. But yeah, so I try to do that, and then I try to get that seam kind of mushed in there. I don't know if you can see it, I'm rolling it back towards you right now. But see, it's already kind of sealing. You can't even see cinnamon and butter except for right here kind of coming out. So I try to roll it onto that seam. Get the seam down so that the weight and the pressure naturally kind of closes the seam up. And then I'm gonna wash my hands really quick one more time. And I do have floss this time, so I'm gonna use it. But again, I don't think it's as crucial. You could just use a bench scraper or a good sharp big knife. If they get mushed, that's okay. You can kind of halfway reshape them when you put them in the pans, but they're gonna puff up and cook in the oven anyway. They don't have to be perfect. Okay, so now we get the dental floss. And you need about, not much, that's plenty. Probably a foot, give or take. Yeah. And then we just go to one end and you lift it up. My son told me, he's like, oh, that's how you do that. He had tried to use it before and he said he just put it over the top and like sawed downward and it was still mushing. And he's like, this is no better than a knife. So it is funny how people say, oh, use dental floss, but if you don't explain how, I can see how it can get misguided. So you put the dental floss underneath the log, and I'm gonna make about 14 out of this. So let me kind of measure this out first. I'm gonna put little marks with the secondary one. Yes, I just touched this now. I know it's just butter and cinnamon, but I have to wash the outside of that now. I'm not clean freak. I'm creative and, you know, kind of messy in that sense, disorganized. But I am like germophobia, especially if you're gonna eat something. It grosses me out. So anyway, I'm gonna use this one and I'm gonna go 14. So I need 13 cuts to make 14 of these. And I kind of just, they don't have to be perfect, but I wanna make sure I'm making them fairly even. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's gonna be, and that last one's small and that's only 12. So I think I'm gonna make the bigger, fatter ones in the middle a little bit skinnier from those marks so that I can get 14 out of this. So if you're really paranoid about it, you can measure it out or do whatever you want. I ain't that paranoid. There you go. And then you cross it over and pull, and they slice beautifully. Now again, these are very soft and mushy, but it slices great. And then I'm gonna put about 4 in the small cheesecake springform pans, and then I'll put about 6 in the big one, and that will be the 14. All right, well, these are all cut up. They're separated out. They look and smell delicious. I just put some plastic wrap over the top of them. I'm gonna stick them in the refrigerator overnight. And in the morning we will get up and I will look a little bit more worn for the wear, but we will get these baking in the morning and I'll explain how I do all of that, and then we'll make the topping and enjoy them with a cup of coffee. So looking forward to that. I'll probably get up at like 5 or 5:30 tomorrow just to make sure these are done and ready so that at least my husband and my daughter can enjoy some of them. Yep, I'll see you guys in the morning. Okay, it is the next morning. Everybody's sleeping, so I'm gonna try to be quiet. I usually use heavy cream. Today, I don't have heavy cream, so I'm gonna do half and half. That's totally fine. But if you have heavy cream, use heavy cream. The oven is preheating to 350. And we're just gonna take a tablespoon of this and put it on top of each of the cinnamon rolls. And it's okay if you do a little bit more, a little bit less, but give or take about 1 tablespoon of heavy cream. And this is why you wanna put the cinnamon rolls on foil-lined baking sheets, because the heavy cream may leak out a little bit and you don't want that huge mess to clean up. So definitely line it with foil underneath the springform pans. And then after these are all topped, then we're gonna put them in the oven for about 40 to 45 minutes. Okay, so while the rolls are baking, we're gonna do 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, a tablespoon of maple extract, 1 stick, which is 4 ounces of salted butter, and 1 brick, which is 8 ounces of cream cheese. And we're gonna mix all of those up with our hand mixer, and that will be the frosting. Okay, so these ones just came out of the oven. It was 45 minutes. The other ones I'm leaving in just for a few more minutes. They were on the lower rack, so I need to let them cook for just a few more minutes. And we're gonna just slap some frosting on here, and they are gonna be ready to enjoy. Oh yeah, that looks good. Flaky and delicious.